Hey everybody, welcome to SAMA, Seattle Circuit Music and Art. I'm Derek Mazzoni, your host. Thank you for being here. Hope your life is going well, and if it's not, I hope that changes soon. We are at the Thing Festival in beautiful Port Townsend, Washington. This is Fort Worth, which is a really stunning grounds where a lot of music, a lot of art, a lot of food, and all sorts of things are happening on this particular weekend. It's the last weekend of August 2022. This is also tribal territory. This is an indigenous land. I'm here with Elaine Grenell, who is a tribal storyteller from the Jamestown Clem. She just performed stories of her people's origin and, most importantly, the connection with the land here. There's a lot of people at this festival that don't really know the history of this area. Obviously, the Pacific Northwest has grown. Obviously, Seattle and the surrounding region has grown. But there have been people here for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. And we took this time with our help with our friends at STG and Adam Zach at ThinkFest to allow and to present and to center indigenous voices of this region so that people who are now living in the area can actually learn something about the area and, more importantly, can learn how to possibly live a more balanced life. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. My pleasure.
That was a beautiful performance.
Well, thank you. I got lucky, I guess.
You were fabulous. You totally connected. You made fun of a couple of people, which is always good. Got them riled up, and shared something that a lot of people here just don't really know about this area. And I was really, really encouraged by the fact that you're like, no, we've been here. We need to have this story heard. Mm-hmm. In your own words, can you tell me about the history of the Jamestown Clallam and what should people know about this area?
Jamestown is one of the smallest tribes around. I'm on the Olympic Peninsula. There's the whole tribe out west. I think they're a little bit smaller, but we're 565.
That's small.
Yes, it's very small. But most of them are very progressive people and have ideas of where they want to go, mm-hmm. what they want to do, what they want to provide for their families, how they think spiritually, and what they think of their families, and that's so commendable, and we want the best education that we could possibly have for our children so they can compete. We want them to be leaders, and we have several. And if education is holding them back from job opportunities, well, then we provide assistance. And so we are to the point where we can help anyone that's, we don't pay all. We pay percentage,
okay,
depending on, their background and what, on a sliding scale. So,
totally understand.
But if they get on the A list, well, then they get a bonus when they graduate. I have a cousin, not a cousin, but he's a grandson that just graduated from Georgetown in New York.
Okay.
And he's going to be a physician's attendant.
That's beautiful.
And so, that was his choice, not to be a doctor, but he wanted to go that far. And he says, maybe later I'll do something else. But what we do, that's on an individual basis. If they do not want to go to college, well, then they can certainly go to vocation. Any way to improve their course of, of living. And also that it's just their way of life. We're mixing Indian and not mixing.
How do you keep it together? How do you keep them part of the community? Because you're saying they're mixing their way of life. There's a lot of pressures to leave. There's a lot of pressures to live a different way. How do you keep that sense of
That's
community?
that's probably one of the most difficult things that we have, and now we got to the point where we actually accept them leaving, but we accept them when they come back.
Oh, okay.
And that's difficult sometimes. There's a jealousy in every person. If you think that someone thinks they're a little bit better or better educated, but we're all thinking that education is the best thing for us to be able to compete.
What do you do to make sure that they know about the history, the traditions, the work, the
Perfect.
language?
I'm glad that you asked that, because you see, now we're teaching the Klalam language, Nutskalai Amutsan, and teaching it at the college that we have nearby, Peninsula College. We teach them at the reservation, to our tribal land, and we don't isolate them or anything. We welcome this. And in 1954, we had only one graduate, and that was me.
Wow.
And now we have, I've almost forgotten, about 60 students from the Lower Elwha and the Jamestown. There's a mixture of blood there. And so, they want, and the only reason that they reasoned that they can do or reach their goals is by education.
Okay. So the focus is on education, but a broad level of education, because
Yes,
you're keeping the language alive.
Right. Keeping the language alive, being proud of it, and also being able to speak. Don't let it die.
Yeah, the language dies.
Because then
if
that
nobody's
takes the
speaking it.
spirit out of you, as far as as tribal.
Mhm.
You're getting away. You're getting away just inches by inches by inches.
Yeah.
And so when they come home, well, they can pick up where they left off. They value the food that they used to eat. They don't have to hide. In my day, if we ate different things that the norm didn't eat, my grandmother would pull the shades.
Really?
Yeah, so nobody could see what we were eating.
What's the usual diet? What was the usual diet?
Well, ours was seafood,
Mhm.
and then we went to agriculture because the commercial came along, and then it just wiped out our area, and so then we went to agriculture, and so there was a mixture there.
Mhm.
And of course, they got into the commercial part of it too. And now it's all coming back, and I'm so proud of them, because now we have kitchens, or a kitchen in our tribe.
Okay.
Great big commercial one, and people that know different recipes for old food. What I mean, not old food,
Just old style, the
old
traditional style.
style. They get on TV. We have TV too,
Right on.
and so they teach the community. I think that's a wonderful thing. Then they got into medicine.
Yeah.
We got all kinds of different grasses and cedar, everything. And that's just a portion. I shouldn't even get into that because I'm not that well versed on
But that's okay.
all
But
those. But you get the idea
yeah.
that these were used by the natives a long time ago, and they're working now. And so we're pretty proud of that.
You should be.
And
It seems that things are coming back. As is the next generation interested in this? Is
Yes.
it like a feeling like, I want to know?
yes.
That's beautiful.
Now, right now is our older generation, like mine, or of course they're a little younger, but we're teaching the smaller ones,
Hmm.
the younger ones, and 13-year-olds are teaching too, and because everybody's developing their different items that they had been taught by their grandparents.
That's beautiful.
And so in that way, we keep our children well versed in the different things that they could use to cope and survival.
Hmm.
All these different things that you might need sometime in your life.
No, as a human
Or
being. Yeah.
we use tea all the time,
Yeah.
and we have not so much coffee, but we do have other, a soft drink,
Hmm.
and it's just to see the older people on TV, and they're nervous just like I am, then they come out and they do the cooking, and then there's the students out there on Zoom.
Right on.
So, they're learning how to, for the recipe, they take those recipes all down.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you.
For just a second,
Sure.
There's just a little stray light coming in. I'd like to just fix this.
No problem. The light? I want to ask you a couple of questions about the land, specifically because this is, I'll repeat it, but this is a powerful, striking part. The Olympic Peninsula, the first time I saw it, when I got here on just a backpacking trip in 1988, I had never seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
And it is a place that if you're living here, you have to have a relationship with this place.
Oh, yeah.
And you're old enough to see the degradation when people started chopping down the trees and they started changing the shoreline and everything else here. And it feels now that people, are now realizing is like, oh man, we screwed up. How do we fix it? And people are looking for new ways to connect, to heal their relationship with the land. And not just like, we're just going to pound our way through it. You have to have a balance with nature. And we saw this, when they took down the forest, the salmon suffered because there was no cover anymore
yeah.
for the salmon.
Mhm.
So I would love to talk about that with you a little bit. If you could go into a little more details, like what is the relationship with the Sklallam, with the land here? It's ancient. Obviously, it was your diet, and it's part of the language and everything. But a lot of people here, because it's growing so much, they don't know that. They're like, oh, that's really pretty. Oh, there's whales. Oh, there's rain. But what exactly is the relationship, here, if you can?
It's kind of
hold
odd
up.
that you ask that, because my family now are hikers. They go back into the woods,
Mhm.
way back into the woods, and they take pictures and they bring them back. And they've found different instances. Well, of lately now it's marmots, where there used to be a whole village of marmots, but they've been depleted by what they figure is coyotes,
Oh, wow.
and they miss, the ecosystem misses that challenge from those small animals, and
Mhm.
so projects like that seem so unreal to most of us. I I don't know if I could identify a marmot, only because I've seen pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about how they live. And I don't even know why they live. But they do contribute.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of compare them to people.
Mm-hmm.
And now, over a 1 week period, and out of 7 people, they only found 1 marmot. It's because another animal has taken over that area. Now, how can we replace that if there's only 1? Well, we have to import, And that's probably what we'll do. And a long time ago, I know a lot of our people have gone on to other tribes or non-Indians to marry, because being in a tight group, pretty soon you're related. And so when you go someplace, they'll say, Neath Kosed, Tennisnaw, Elaine Grenell, Pastrahoilas, you introduce yourself, and you might be my cousin, and so I will, you're just not called, you're not material for me to, form a relationship with it. You've got to be aware of those things. And so that's what our people have done.
Mm-hmm.
Much to our detriment right now, because now you can only be a member of one tribe. Okay, I've got, my father is Lummi, my mother is Clem, New Sklyam, and I can only be registered. Usually a child will go with the mother, okay, like I did. But that cut me right in half. See, I'm no longer a full blood. I'm only half of what my mother was.
Of one tribe.
Yes.
That's interesting, because most people don't know that. They think of it like these, just like, native, not native, and that you don't really break that down between them. And we've known for a while that every tribe's going to be different. They're going to have a different perspective. But I didn't know that you break it down by either you're full, like either you were native or not native or half native. I didn't know that it was broken down by tribes.
Like my daughter over here now, because I'm only half, she's quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because she married non-native, now John is 1/8. You see what that's doing to our tribe. The government only accepts down to 1/8. And I don't know how they did that, but anyway, they did. But see, then our tribe is non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
And what a pitiful way of getting rid of the native. But it's up to us to hang on to the things that we have been taught.
There's the blood, quote unquote, but there's the language, the culture, there's the history. All those things can't be taken away.
No.
If they're, it doesn't matter. We did a project with a group called the Medicine Singers out of Massachusetts and Rhode Island. They don't even know what percentage they have, because it's been so long. But they have taken their powwow group. They've taken, this is their culture. They may look, they don't present as native, but this is their culture. They can trace their history, but it's not broken down like that. Like it's a quarter, eighth, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, we started having a conversation about what the future could be. Because right now we have the history, the present. How do you see that evolving in the future?
I see it as very painful, but it's a fight that will be fought. And now, like John is 1/8. And, he's learning, as we sit here right now, he's learning more about his tribe. And he's interested.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to know. He wants to be able to tell whomever he wants to share it with that he's Jamestown. He's not afraid. He's not ashamed. He loves his tribe and what they're doing and wants to be a part of that. Now, there will have to be some way that our tribe is going to handle their membership so that we won't suddenly disappear because of someone back in Washington, D.C. or wherever they might make the decision.
Olympia.
We're going to have to do that. And, there are plans to do that, make a move, do something, for those that are interested in our tribe, our people, our way of living, our way of eating, our way of doing everything. And, I think it's very noble for him to take that on. He's a fireman. Him and his brother both are firemen. And so she's got a lawyer for her.
Right on.
She's done really well, And the other one, she's into the housing business and decoration and so on and so forth. I'm so proud of all of them, and they're all interested. They want to know.
In the community, in the tribe.
Yeah, and being
Interesting.
in the tribe.
Yeah.
And the tribe is doing everything that they can. There are some, especially retirees, that cannot afford a lot of different things. So that's why we have our food banks. And
Support each
so
other.
we help. If there's a need, we help. And so I think that as long as there are needs, our tribe is going to survive no matter what.
That's beautiful. This is a really interesting time also where for a long time, your generation beforehand, you didn't talk about it that much. It was like there wasn't interest in Indigenous. You had the residential schools and everything. It was horrific, kids being taken away from their parents. Now there is an opportunity where people are actually, you present yourself, I am Indigenous, I am of this tribe, and people are paying attention to that. It's not being brushed aside. There's a cultural and political opportunity right now for his generation and the next generation to actually claim space in this, where yours didn't have a chance. It was like, you need to look like us, you need to be like enough, don't speak your language, don't speak your culture. And, this is one of the things that I found most interesting about talking to, especially to elders of your generation, because you've seen so much happen, and I'm super curious right now where suddenly people are starting their conversation. It's like your son is like, I am Indigenous, I am of this tribe, before even their name. This is a whole flip, completely different way, and people are open to that. There isn't like, there isn't a, okay, so you're telling me you're this, so I'm going to assume all these things about you. That's gone. I mean, it's changing generations. My children are very much interested in this, on par with everything else.
Yeah, that, it is true, and they're willing to share. And when we call it lost our land for so little,
Yeah.
and we didn't, some of them couldn't read or write, and someone else made the decisions. I mean, that really hurt. Why would they take our own government, take advantage of us? But right now it's happening all the time.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, to everybody. And so I don't feel like we're the only ones.
No, and it's happening all over the world right now.
It's happening, and I've traveled a little bit. I've gone to Africa, and I got along really well with the people.
Everybody likes you.
And then, we couldn't talk the same language, but nevertheless we communicated. And And it was a good thing. I went that far to find new friends, and you can find them next door if you want to. I went to Australia, and it was the same thing. The village, almost like a village people. That song, and it's about the village people. But when you sit down and you start talking, there's none of that. You just talk, just like we are right now, and then there's that humanness that comes into it, and that's something that I think sometimes we forget, that we're only human.
Yeah.
And it's okay to talk to somebody. I mean, there's extremes, but you know what I mean. But for the main part, we have the opportunity to meet in the middle.
Yeah. Elaine, thank you so much.
Oh, really?
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, incidentally, that singer is my granddaughter, and we keep it in the family, Wouldn't you? Oh, I'm so glad to see everyone. I just wish the lights were on so I could see your faces. I could see movement out there. And oh, children, yes, I love them. Yeah, oh, I'm so glad to be here. And thank everyone for inviting me. I am just so pleased to be here and let you know about my area. I say my area, but I do share it with a lot of different people. And so I think that you have been handed out a piece of paper, and it says a timeline of the Jamestown Clallam tribe. Have you? Have any of you received one? Oh, here they come. Here they come. Yeah. Yeah, I always thought having a child at the hospital was bad. But at least I didn't have to swim in the water while doing this, bumping off rocks. But anyway, we're so happy about the love that we have about the salmon. So many of our stories are written around the salmon, and all the legends and myths and fun stories. Oh, yes. I learned most of my stories from my grandfather, and it was just so fun. We'd sit around. This was during World War II, and I suppose that there aren't any people that would remember that, huh? But anyway, we would sit around at night with just one light, from the stove, and it had cracks in it, so the fire was giving that light. And he would tell stories as he peeled apples. And, oh my! I just thought that there was no other life but doing that. And he would tell stories. And I just enjoyed it so much. Even there was a scary actions going on outside my door with soldiers walking by and with guns on. But we made it through all of that. We made it, and it's been a constant rivalry, sort of, and it's still going on between the people, administration, and diversity. It's just all mixed into it, but yet we persevere. I don't know how to say that word. How do you say that, John? Perseverance. Yeah, perseverance. Yeah, perseverance. Perseverance. Yeah, 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 perseverance. I brought the whole tribe just to make sure that I would have an audience. Yeah, and my daughter is around here someplace too. And God, I've got another cousin here. But that's what it's all about, you know. We stick together, we help each other in need. And we're there for friendship, we're there for helping and caring and loving each other. And so, yeah, I want that for everybody. And you see the results. You see all these things that I've taught the children, and hope that they'll take a look at these things that have been woven and the drums that have been made and the things that the tools that we had to work with. And here is one of them. And isn't this a beautiful basket? Look at that. And this is a clam. When you go clam digging, well, you put this over your shoulder, or you could put it over your head also. But then you could drop your clams in there, and then water and sand drip out, you know, drip through the bottom. And so that's one of our clam baskets. We didn't know that we were poor. We didn't realize anything like that, but we did know how to cope. And you know, that's the best thing for everybody. That's the best thing, how to deal with what you have, or what has been given you. Because once you get that and understand it for yourself, well, then you'll make it through life. Now, in that, I guess you've noticed that I might have a handicap, or somebody told me that's not a handicap, that's a disability. And so I guess I was a few years. That's an old word. Oh, okay. All right, but it's been, the affliction has been around a long time, so I have to laugh about it because I thought it never happened to me. Never happened to me. I'd be able to see for the rest of my life because I have two eyes. Well, one went on a blink, and so that's kind of funny too. And so, and the other one is doing pretty good for itself. So, nevertheless, I still have to read with this little cheater thing here. And so, if you'll look at the timeline of the Jamestown Clallam tribe, and it's only about 25. How many miles away, Julie? 25? 25 miles away to the west. Almost a jumping off place, but you have to go 75 more miles in order to get to the end of Washington State. And so, anyway, I just wanted to tell you that we've been here for hundreds, thousands of years, you know, just not me, even though disregard how, that's disregarding how I feel or look. But anyway, I just want to share it with you. And so, anyway, ancestral territory of the Clallam stretched across the Olympic Peninsula from the river to the east side of Discovery Bay into Port Townsend Bay, including Indian Island, Marrowstone Island, Oak Bay, and Whidbey Island, and also on the straits, the southern area of Vancouver, and Beecher Bay. And now those names that I recommended, I highly recommend that you go there and see what beautiful, beautiful world and people that you will meet. And it's there's nothing like the Olympic Peninsula. We did start from Port Townsend, all right, but in 1928, the Hudson Bay Company deemed that they no longer wanted us here, so they burned our houses down. That's sad. This is so sad, isn't it? And then in 1855, well, I guess we signed a treaty. I guess if you can't beat him, well, then you join him, don't you? Well, Chatsamoku is one of the Sklalams agreed to give up millions. Can you believe that? Clear from the top of the Olympic Mountains down to the seashore. And in exchange for a payment of $60,000. You want to faint now, or shall I faint, huh? Gosh, you can hardly buy anything along the water now. And that was over a 20-year period, so anyway, they long forgot that. Anyway, and then the second Clallam village was burned. That was in 1859 or 56. And by that time, it was noticed that they probably didn't want us here any longer. And I don't know why. Population of Clallams in Port Townsend was about 200. And that was likely to, because of the diseases that I won't mention who brought them here, but I'm not saying that we didn't have a couple ourselves. I don't know that. But nevertheless, it was very serious when it caused death to thousands of people. And it was so, because we had no resistance to, and especially, it doesn't say it here, but it was alcohol. And so, anyway, are there any questions about this? There's something that you wanted to know? I want you to get a copy of these things, the timeline of Jamestown people. Does anybody have any questions?
Can more of those get passed out?
Julie, what did he say?
We only had so many, and there'll be a copy on the SAMA website.
Oh, yeah, you'll find it. Yes, you'll find it there. And please do look it up, because there's a lot more information on the Jamestown. I know that all these things that I've told you so far is really, very, very saddening for us all now. It's all very painful, but we don't forget it. No one would forget it. And you have things in your family that you don't forget. But you learn how to cope with it, and you make the best life that you can for yourself. And so that's exactly what the Jamestowns have done. Now, I happen to have a list of all the companies that the Jamestowns have started now in the Squim area, and it's spread out to many different areas. And there's 14 of them. And it starts right from a golf course. Of course, you have to have a golf course, And that kind of tickles me. But they do have a restaurant there, too. and it's wonderful how we've formed a food corporation also, and we're doing quite well on it, feeding the tribe. We're going into aquaculture, and it's just a wonderful thing. We've got our own surveyor now, because we're buying fixer-uppers and renting them out. But we have other, networks that are in place, and our eventual goal will be self-sustained. John? Sustained. Everybody hear him? If you can't talk, well, then you shouldn't be here. But that's why I bring my family, And so, but anyway, we employ over 800 people now, and we try and we prioritize them. We try real hard to employ our own tribal members. But if they do not have the qualifications because of lack of education, well, then what we do is send them to school, and then, oh, I see. Well, I didn't know that. Yeah, hi. Yeah, gee, you're kind of quiet over there, aren't you? Oh, it happens when you go to a big town like Fort Townsend. But anyway, we send them out to college if they want to go, vocational if they want, and then on-the-job training, and do whatever we can so that we could hire our own people. In the meantime, we have a lot of employees that are non-native, and then they in turn teach our people. And so we feel like that's a success in itself. And when you have a need and you look around and fill that need, well, that makes you a strong person. It makes you a strong person. And all these children that are in here, I hope that they have their proper amount of education too, because there is more and more need for that. And not only, it's a need that fulfills your spirit, and you have to be happy while you're doing your job. And so that's what I hope for all of you, all these young people here, and take good care of your children. Now, this grandfather was very up in years, and he was going to, he knew he was going to walk the spirit trail. Oh gosh, his hands were all gnarled and wrinkled because of the weather conditions and the work that he did, and he had done it for so long. People knew he was really the elder of the tribe. And he had so much knowledge that he thought, I can't take it with me on the spirit trail because, I'll learn other knowledge. I'll learn other things. So I have to leave whatever I have now here with those that you love, or your friends, or whoever needs it. So he's going to start out with his own family. Now, he has already talked to some of the older boys. And then while he was thinking this, by this time he had gotten up. You know how that feels real early in the morning? Oh, you just feel, and then pretty soon you stand up, right, and you feel pretty good. All right. That's the good part. That's the good part of retirement. Yeah. So anyway, he all at once he could feel something, and he looked down, and there was this little boy. He was about 6 years old, and it was his grandson, great-grandson. But he didn't spend much time with him because he took care of the older ones first. And he says, Mano, I squatchy ayanuk, he said to him. He said, good morning, it's a good day. And the little boy was just grinning. Oh, he had the most beautiful little absolutely white teeth, and even if they're the baby ones, and some was gone right here, Anybody missing a tooth? No? Okay. Anyway, little boy was happy because grandfather was even talking to him. Oh, yeah, the little boy nodded, he says, it's a real good day. And so then he said to him, what are you doing today? And the little boy looked up at him and he says, nothing. Grandfather went like that and he just so shook. He said, you can't do anything. He says, you've got to learn something every single day because it's necessary. You're going to use that knowledge when you get to be a big person. Oh, okay. He didn't care if he was catching heck from his dad, or his grandfather, I mean. And then grandfather says, what are you going to do tomorrow? The little boy says, nothing. Oh, the world came apart then. And so he says, okay. He says, I'm going to teach you something. Tomorrow, he says, I'm going to take you down to the river and I'm going to show you how to catch fish. You are going to have to take care of your grandma and your aunt and anyone who has a need. You take care of them. It's your responsibility. You have to be a leader. And you start thinking about leading right now. And so the little boy was going to scurry off. No, he said, wait, you don't have enough information yet. So the little boy went back and he says, see that mountain over there? Yes. He says, now look, he says, when the sun comes up to the top of that mountain, he says, I will be at your door knocking. And he says, and you be ready. On time. Oh, okay. And tell your mother what we're going to do. Pack a lunch. Yeah, pack a lunch. And so then he took off. Why, the next day, grandfather was knocking on that door as soon as that sun came up. He had that pack, that little net go across the river. And then he says, okay. He says, now. He says, we've gone through everything. We've gone through the skunk that just went across our path. We stood real still because you know why? Little boy smiled and he says, no. He says, because she can really squirt at you and it just smells terrible. Just terrible. And it stays on your clothing and your skin for a long time. Okay. And then what about that eagle that was sitting on top of that tree? Oh my. Turn his head all the way around. Of course, Grandpa couldn't turn his head very far anymore. But anyway, they went through all of that. But now they're down at the river. He threw that net out and he says, you watch. And he pulled that net back in. And he had fish. Yeah, of course he did. Grandpas are always successful, aren't they? Yeah. And so he put the fish down. And then pretty soon, he threw that net out, brought it back in, and he says, I want you to be a leader of this tribe. And he says, it's big responsibility. So you watch and you learn from your leaders. And he put his fish down. He threw that net out again. He brought back in another fish, and he says, I want you to understand this. Don't take any more than you need. Do not do that because sometimes the fish will not be there if you keep taking more fish than you can handle. Oh, okay, the little boy said. He says, that's it. He says, we have 5 fish there, so you go get a limb. He says, gill those fish, and then we'll both carry it home. And so the little boy went, got a stick, and he put it through the gills, and so one was on each side like this. He was carrying that fish. All at once he stopped right by the river, and he says, you want me to show you something? Yeah, the little boy said. He says, you want me to show you how I can change the course of this river? What? That little boy just kind of shouted inside. He said, yeah, I'd like to see you change the course of this river. And all at once he says to himself, I can imagine a great big wave coming down this river, picking us both up, taking us down to the down to the mouth of the river and drowning us. Ah, Grandpa wouldn't do that. Sapa wouldn't do that. He's never hurt me in his whole life, or mine, more importantly. And so he says, okay, I'll show you. He reached out and put his gnarly hand around his grandson in such a loving way and drew him close to him. And he says, now, as they kneeled by the river, he says, now, he says, you watch what I do, you watch what I say. And then he says, this is a lesson. And he reached out with the other hand and he picked up a little boulder about that big around, and he, right at the edge of the river, well, he picked that up and it created a hole there where it once sat. And pretty soon they watched, and that little boy says, well, I guess Grandpa must have failed this time. But he didn't say it out loud. So what he did was he watched. All at once, the river, just a little rivulet, came in, filled that hole up, and started spreading out. He says, see, I've changed the course of the river. And he says, you thought you was going to see something really big, didn't you? And he said, yeah, I did. And he says, look, I've changed the course of that river. And he says, now when you get to be big, when you get to be a man, and you make the right choices, he says, if your life isn't going very well, he says, just one little change in your life, and it will change forever. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you take it to heart. Just a little change. Yeah. Then let me see, how much time do I have? Where's...
All day.
All day. Hey, okay, any questions?
Yes. Tell us about the blanket and the shawl.
Oh, this one here was made by my cousin and aunt. Now both of them are gone, but they tried really hard to teach me how to weave like this. They couldn't change my river. Some people have a skill for doing that, but they went out and they would get the wool right off the sheep, and then card it and wash it and dry it and spin it. And we had a naming. There was 13 of us. Wasn't there, John? Yeah, 13. Yeah, okay. And boy, I'm glad John's here. Yeah, and anyway, they made it for us, the 13 scarves, and when you get a certain age, well, then you get your native name, and so everyone in our family in that generation has scarves and vests to go together like that. Yeah, and so this is highly, highly treasured, the scarf, and it will keep you nice and warm. And I just love to wear it, yeah. And it's also got a pin here that you put it through the yarn all right, but you don't want to put it right through the thread. And so have you ever looked at a crab? A crab has eyes, and they go like this. Then they go like that. Yeah. And then they got 2 or 3 mouths. They go like this here, and they keep pushing it in. So I think my neighbors have some like that too. Yeah. Well, anyway, this little crab, oh my, she was waiting for her little grandchildren to come over and visit. Oh, anyway, they finally arrived. And then a big storm came along. Oh, no. Oh, now here comes all these crabs running towards a small little rock. Then their legs were going like this, and the wind would push them that way and this way. But finally they made it to Grandma's house. Their little eyes were going like that, you know, moving all over under this rock. That's where she lived. They were moving. Grandmas don't like all that action, so she's, wait a minute, I'm gonna tell you teach you a song, she says. And John, can you give me my drum? Oh, yeah. Oh, gee, don't fail me now. And anyway, she says, here, oh, wait a minute, I don't need that drum just yet. I will need it. And then here we go. And she says, I want your little eyes forward and your little pinchers up. And so, come on, you guys. Who's that sleeping right there? No. I want your attention here. Okay, your eyes were forward because she wanted their attention. And then she had her little pinchers up, just in case somebody went to sleep. And then she'd go. I'm having fun. Anyway. Okay, anyway, she says, okay, here goes the song. I'll sing it once by myself, and then you sing with me. Little eyes forward and little pinchers up. Hey, Nipsey, yo, hey, Nipsey, yo. Hey, Nipsey, yo. Oh, you learned. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Oh, the storm was still, it was bad out. One little guy went up there to see if the storm was still there, and it blew him right off the rock, and kerplunk, he went right in your grandma's house after he fell off the rock. Oh, my. And then, it was, it was really something. Oh, Grandma, we can't go out there. And then pretty soon a little tiny one, cloo, claw. That means little. Can you say that? Cloo, claw. Of course, the longer it strings out, the smaller it is. Okay. Oh, my, you're too little. So she went out there and she tried it. And because everybody has a responsibility in their family. And then, so finally, she got up there, and the sun came out, and the waves just settled down, and the wind was gone. Oh, she thought that was great, so she hopped down, and she says to Grandma, she says, the storm is over. Now we can go out and play on the beach. Okay, and everybody starts moving around, oh gosh. And so she said, wait a minute, we're going to sing this song as we file out of here. And she says, here we go, little eyes forward and little pinchers up. And here we go. Hey, Nipsey, yo. Hey, Nipsey, yo. Hey, Nipsey, yo. Woo! Oh, you're such good little crabs. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for being here and taking a rest, I would presume. Anyway, whatever reason, I'm just glad. I just like to see every one of your faces. I hope I've put a smile on it because the Jamestowns are strong people. They're people that work hard. They expect to get paid just as hard as they work, and they're there, and they're called the strong people. And so, yay for us. Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
This is Sama, Seattle Circuit Music and Art at Thing Festival in Fort Worden and Port Townsend. Please like, subscribe, and tell people about our show. Thanks.